Hi, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com, and welcome to That Was the Week That Was in South Carolina College Baseball for May the 8th. Sorry I didn't get this done last night, but the Newberry-Lincoln Memorial game in the South Atlantic Conference Tournament and the final game of the Region 10 tournament on Sunday night both ran kind of long, and I didn't want to try to do something that late at night and figured I'd come back and do it fresh on a Monday morning. The way we're going to do it this week is just kind of go down the teams by division and just mention some of the highlights of what I thought about the previous week. In NCAA Division I, Clemson got a 3-game sweep of Louisville. They've now won 5 straight ACC series. They moved into second place in the ACC Atlantic Division, and they're a half game out of being tied for second place overall. The Tigers, I moved them ahead of South Carolina in my Palmetto State baseball rankings for Division I schools this week. I just thought Clemson's playing really well. They are 12-2 in their last 14 ACC games. Again, 5 straight ACC series wins and a sweep over Louisville. So they're playing very well. Pitching seems to be getting better and better. They got some guys back from injury like Tyler Corbett and Ryan Ammons. Caden Grice just gets better and better on the mound, it seems like. He's really developing into a great two-way player for the Tigers. And I think they've gone from being on the bubble for NCAA tournament consideration a few weeks ago to right now they're solidly in the host discussion. I think if they keep playing well, they got Virginia Tech and I believe North Carolina after that in ACC. They finish strong here, do all right in ACC tournament. I think they've got a really good chance to be a host school. Moving over to South Carolina, they had another disastrous weekend. They just did not play well at Kentucky. Don't take anything away from Kentucky. I thought they played well. They exploited their strengths and South Carolina's weaknesses, but the Gamecocks just really didn't look like they were very interested in being there. Don't know what it is, whether there's just the injuries are finally catching up with them, just one of those bad weekends that happen twice in a row. But right now, I think the Gamecocks need to do something to get things turned around before they find out they've played themselves out of a host spot in the NCAA tournament. Right now, they're still probably a top 8 seed, but they're probably the bottom half of the top 8. And if they don't do well against Arkansas this coming weekend and Tennessee the following weekend, they may play themselves out of the host spot and definitely out of the top 8 seed nationally. But again, they've had a good season overall, and you look at a rough patch as to what they're going through now, and you think, well, if they played poorly early and got well hot late, wouldn't think a whole lot about it. Just they're kind of right now the opposite of what Clemson's doing. But the Gamecocks still having injury issues. 3/4 of their infield is out or out of position. Also, they had to move the best catcher in Cole Messina over to third because of those other injuries. Of course, Noah Hall has been out as the number 1 pitcher for quite a while, and for the second straight weekend, USC's starting pitcher struggled. That's something that he had not had to really worry about much earlier in the season. So it seems like a perfect storm right now. The Gamecocks just not doing much well at all right now, making mental mistakes, physical mistakes. They're playing a lot right now, like the team did last season that wound up with a losing record. And I think they want to get things turned around, I know. Coastal Carolina's in a great race in the Sun Belt Conference. Right now, the Chanticleers are tied with Southern Mississippi for first place. A couple of teams that are a couple of games behind them. Going into the weekend, there were 11 teams at 500 or better in the Sun Belt Conference, and only 10 get to go to the conference tournament. So that's a really good race going on right now. Chanticleers are playing well. They want to keep that up, I know. One little note, they got their Tuesday night game at the Citadel postponed. I just saw that earlier today. Don't know why, whether it's prospective weather or some other issue, but Coastal's playing well right now. They're solidly in the discussion for a regional host spot as well. I don't think that they will wind up taking 3 hosts from South Carolina if Clemson, Carolina, and Coastal all finish well. But it'd be interesting to see if that does happen. Wofford is at number 4 in the rankings this week. They went up to Greensboro and lost 2 out of 3. In midweek, they lost a game to Tennessee up there. No disgrace right there. But the Terriers are in a tight race with Mercer and Sanford in the Southern Conference standings. And I believe that Mercer is coming into Wofford this weekend to play them. So that'll be a big series for them. College of Charleston had a great comeback on Saturday to win the middle game of their series with North Carolina A&T. They were down 15-8 and wound up winning 16-15. Scored 2 runs they had 2 outs, nobody on, nothing going in the top of the 9th. and they rallied to go ahead 16-15, held on to win. That was the largest comeback for the Cougars program since they became a Division I school in 1991. Came back from 7 runs down. On Sunday, North Carolina A&T shut them down. Charleston had scored 16 in both the first 2 games. They were held to 1 run on Sunday and dropping that final game. That hurt them a little bit. They're got some work to do to get back in the regular season championship picture. Not sure if they have enough time. Got a big series with UNCW this weekend. USC Upstate had a good week. They swept Gardner-Webb in the Big South Conference Series. The Spartans remained 2 games behind Campbell, which swept its series, and moved to 5 games ahead of second place Gardner-Webb in ahead of third place Gardner-Webb. So they've got a really good chance of finishing no worse than second in the Big South for the seedings purposes. Winthrop had a great week. Winthrop has won 7 straight Big South Conference games. They're now over 500 in the conference. They're tied for third with Gardner-Webb in the conference. They're over 500 for the season, 24-22. Winthrop had a good game with South Carolina midweek. They wound up losing 5-1. It was 1-1 going into the, I believe it was the bottom of the 6th. Winthrop had a runner thrown out at home on a great play by USC's defense. And then Carolina got to 3 home runs in the 7th inning to pull away. But again, Winthrop is playing really well right now. Citadel won 2 of 3 against VMI. So they climbed out of last place in the Southern Conference standings. They wound up getting shut down in the final day on Sunday. But still, the Citadel's doing well. They're within 2 games of 500 as the season's going on. Charleston Southern had a rough weekend at High Point. They got swept 3 games. That's coming off a midweekend win over the Citadel. But at Longwood, they needed to do better than they did. I'm sorry, at High Point, excuse me. Again, I'm winging this. At High Point, they had a chance to move up in the standings. High Point was behind them in the standings, but now the Buccaneers are having a few troubles. Presbyterian went down to Miami and kind of got just out-talented, for lack of a better word. The Hurricanes hit double digits in all 3 games in scoring, and PC right now is on a 5-game losing streak. They're 18-30 overall. In NCAA Division II, North Greenville was surprising 2-out in the Conference Carolinas tournament, but the Crusaders have played so well all year that I feel sure they'll probably still be the number 1 seed for the South region when the NCAA tournament bids come out for Division II. But there's nothing really to worry about with the Crusaders. They're going to wake up in time for that, I'm sure. And you got to give credit for other teams too for beating them. Newberry lost its opening game in the South Atlantic Conference Championship Series on Sunday night against Lincoln Memorial. The Wolves fell behind 3-0. And in the bottom of the first inning, there was a 4-hour, 38-minute rain delay, so Newberry had to come back with a different pitcher. Gunnar Erickson came back and pitched pretty well for him in the relief role, pitched 5 innings, and got him into the 7th inning. But Lincoln Memorial scored, I believe it was 4 runs in the 9th to go up 11-5 and take a 1-0 game lead in that series. It's a best-of-3 series. They're playing at the Smoky Stadium in Kodak, Tennessee. And game 2 and 3, if necessary, are set for today, Monday, in Kodak. The start of game 1 is supposed to be at 12 o'clock, but it's now been pushed back to at least 2:30 because of weather issues. And, I don't know what it is, but it always seems like the South Atlantic Conference has some weather issues in its tournament. I can remember several times late at night watching a game from Kodak when the teams were playing. It's at midnight or later, things still going on. Last night's game ended just a little bit before midnight, but interesting game. And one thing I regret about the South Atlantic Conference is they've got a contract with Flow Sports right now. And you have to pay for subscription for that to watch their games. It's about $30 a month, which to me seems very high. You think about what you get for $30 a month versus what you get for about $10 or $11 a month with ESPN Plus. I know that the bulk of the people paying for that are probably parents that live away from the school and can't get to see their children play. And I understand the South Atlantic Conference is trying to get any kind of revenue streams it can. I just wish they'd go back to the free feeds like the Peach Belt Conference and Conference Carolinas have. I watched some of their tournaments this weekend, and it's just very enjoyable. You get to see some teams play in postseason situations. Very fun. But again, the SAC has to do what they think is best. But I hope at one point they will go back to free streams. One thing I did enjoy is listening to WKDK radio's feed, AM 1240 out of Newberry. They do a great job of covering the Wolves, especially in the postseason, and it's just nice to be able to follow the game along on audio on the internet as I'm doing other things. That's one nice thing about audio versus video. You can listen to things, listen to something on radio and get things done doing something else. And that's one of the pleasures of baseball, really. I prefer mostly to listen to an audio feed of a game and maybe watch it with the sound turned down. Nothing against TV announcers, but a lot of times you get just better information from radio hosts. For instance, I like listening to South Carolina's feeds with Derek Scott and Tommy Moody doing Gamecock baseball on radio as opposed to the video streams. I have nothing against the guys doing the video there, the video announcing on the video, but Derek and Tommy seem like they know a lot about the teams. They pass along information that is useful, informative, and entertaining, and they will tell it like it is too when the team is not playing well. Moving back to Division II, sorry about that. Erskine lost its elimination game to Francis Marion in the Conference Carolinas tournament, so they finished their season at 29-20. USC Aiken, I've got fourth in my rankings in Division II this week. The Pacers had a great run at the start of the Peach Belt Conference tournament. They won 2 straight in the bracket in Young Harris, Georgia, got to the championship game. They were up 4-2 on the host Mountain Lions in Game 1 on Sunday, and Young Harris scored 3 runs in the 8th and held on to beat Aiken 5-4, forcing a second game. In that second game, Young Harris broke out the bats. They scored a bunch of runs late, and they won 12-4 to eliminate USC Aiken and advance to the Peach Belt Conference Tournament Championship Series at Columbus State. Francis Marion had a great run in Conference Carolinas. I mentioned they beat Erskine, then they beat North Grable in the second round. They finished up getting into the championship round where they played Mount Olive and lost 13-3 in 7 innings. Mount Olive was hot. They scored 21 runs in a must-win game against UNC Pembroke earlier Sunday, and then came back and just hammered on the Patriots in Game 2. Will Hardy had a great tournament for Francis Marion. He had 12 hits in those games, even though he went hitless in the final game on Sunday. He now has 297 career hits. He's the all-time hits leader at Francis Marion. Lander went 0-2 in the Peach Belt Conference tournament, and the rest of the teams in state for Division II had already completed their season. Now, one thing about Benedict is there was a nice feature on them in the latest issue of Collegiate Baseball, talking about Coach Selwyn Young and his team's propensity for stealing bases. They ranked among the best in NCAA Division II for about a decade now as far as steals, steals per game, total steals, all those kind of things. Last year, Braden O'Connor set a career record for stolen bases. I believe he also set a single season record. I'm just going off the top of my head now. But nice read on Benedict. In the NCAA Division III or NC National Christian College Association, Columbia International played in the Appalachian Athletic Conference tournament. They beat Point in their first round game to get into the final round, the double elimination portion, but wound up losing its 2 games there to finish the season at 19-29. Bob Jones' season was supposed to be over, but I found out Sunday night that they are playing in the National Christian College Athletic Association South Regional, which determines an entrant in the NCCAA World Series later on this season. Right now, the Bruins, as I'm taping this, they're down 1-0 to Carolina University in the 6th inning. And it's a double elimination tournament, but the Bruins are going to get a chance to play some more. The Region 10 tournament is underway in Lexington County Ballpark. Florence Darlington Tech, the regular season champion, won its first game, but then lost its next 2 and has been bounced from the tournament. But the Stingers, by virtue of winning the regular season championship, will be one of 2 teams from Region 10 competing in the East District tournament later this week. The East District tournament determines one of the entrants for the National Junior College World Series later on in Grand Junction, Colorado. Excuse me. Team 2 will be Team 2 from the East region, or from Region 10, excuse me, will be the winner of the Region 10 tournament. Right now, Gaston College is in control. They're unbeaten. They will play Monday afternoon and need to be defeated twice to be eliminated. USC Sumter finished second in the region in my standings. In the conference. They went 1-2, won their first game, lost their next two, but still a 33-16 season. Was a great season for the Fire Ants. Spartanburg Methodist is playing USC Lancaster at noon today in an elimination game for the chance to play Gaston College later on. The Pioneers are 3-1 in the tournament so far. They beat USC Union Sunday night to stay alive and advance to the USC Lancaster game. Lancaster is at 2-1. They lost to Gaston College on Sunday after winning their first two games over Spartanburg Methodist and I believe Florence Darlington Tech. I'd have to look right now. I'm sorry. Apologize for that. At fifth place in my standings is USC Union. They had a great tournament run. They went 2-2. They got their first ever Region 10 win in tournament play, and they wound up winning another one, and they tied the school record for wins in a season with 21. So they're doing awfully well right now. USC Salcahatchee is finished the season 0-4. They lost, 0-2. They lost their two games in the tournament this past weekend. Looking ahead to this coming week, Clemson is going to be playing at Coastal Carolina on Wednesday. That's an interesting game. South Carolina has a 4 o'clock home game on Tuesday against North Florida. College of Charleston and Charleston Southern are supposed to be playing on Tuesday. Wofford's at Georgia State. On Wednesday, USC Upstate plays Georgia. That'll be a nice test for them. Newberry, regardless of how it does in the South Atlantic Conference tournament this weekend, has a good weekend series. They're playing Tampa, one of the traditionally strong programs in the NCAA Division II ranks. They play out of I believe it's the South region as opposed to Southeast, but they're a great program. They're going to be playing a series at Smith Road Complex in Newberry this coming weekend. Conference games, as I mentioned, Mercer's at Wofford in the Southern Conference. Citadel has a series at Western Carolina, a chance to move up in the standings for them. Winthrop, which is playing so well in the Big South right now on that 7-game winning streak, they're at home against High Point. USC Upstate is down at Charleston Southern, trying to keep pace with Campbell as things are going on. And Presbyterian is at home against Longwood. College of Charleston, as I mentioned, has a big home weekend series with UNCW. UNCW is in a tight race with Northeastern. College of Charleston is trying to catch up with those two. Clemson is at Virginia Tech, trying to get a sixth straight ACC series win and enhance its resume for the postseason. Coastal Carolina is at South Alabama, big series for the Chanticleers. They need to keep playing well to stay in the lead in the Big Sun Belt Conference. And South Carolina is at Arkansas, as I mentioned. The Gamecocks traditionally do not play very well out there, but it is what it is. I'm sure they're hoping they'll get some of their injured players back. They did have another injury on Sunday when Eli Jersenbeck had to leave the game. I did not hear a report on what the injury was, how severe, whether he's going to be available or not available for the rest of this season. But it's the latest in a bunch of injuries to the Gamecocks. Second baseman Will McGillis went out in the first SEC series against Georgia with a broken hand. They later lost Talmadge LaCroix to a hamstring injury. They lost Braylon Wimber to another hamstring injury, and that's forced them to shuffle things around. Of course, top pitcher Noah Hall's been out for a while. And closer Chris Veach is now experiencing some arm soreness, maybe elbow soreness. So the Gamecocks right now are reeling. They need to have some good things happen to them. Maybe they'll get a couple of their better players back for this coming weekend. Well, that will wrap it up for this week. And that was the week that was in college baseball in South Carolina. This is part of my coverage at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. You can email me at rudyjones@PalmettoStateBaseball.com. You can post on any of my links or any of my comments on any of my posts at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. You can follow me for updates on Twitter at PalmettoBase. And just let me know if you enjoy my coverage of college baseball in South Carolina. Hope your team wins this week if they're in action. And until next week, this is Rudy Jones saying, nothing could be finer than baseball in South Carolina. God loves you. Bye.